Big day, Saturday. The Eagles made a mistake because let's get right into it.
Jump on into it.
Because it's not very often that we have been able to sit down, open a show, and say Howie Roseman made a mistake. But Howie Roseman made a mistake not trading for Justin Fields and instead opting to trade for old Kenny Pickett, who I know he was infatuated with a couple years ago when he went out to the binoculars and was studying him out in Pittsburgh a couple of years ago. I think the Eagles made a mistake here, Ike. I would rather the Eagles' backup quarterback have been Justin Fields heading into this year than Kenny Pickett. And I don't really care that he has another year under his contract. I don't think he's that good. And I think at least Justin Fields had Jalen Hurts, unfortunately, gotten banged up or, frankly, didn't play very well. There could have been a chance there of some upside. Kenny Pickett doesn't move the needle for me, Ike.
Yeah. Wow. I've heard this being discussed. Really, Friday, it was like, okay, they traded for Kenny Pickett. Next thing you know, Justin Fields gets traded for the next day by Pittsburgh. Yeah.
For a sixth.
For a sixth-round draft pick, and now everybody's scratching their head like, hold on, what the hell? And then you hear that the Eagles had called to inquire about Justin Fields, so that lets you know they were at least interested, and they just couldn't come together on a deal as far as compensation. I don't want to get too far in the weeds with this because I think you're looking more at talent for talent. Whereas I don't know if the Eagles are just looking at the talent. They're looking at the financial ramifications of this also. Whereas you have Kenny Pickett under your control for 3 more years. That's assuming they decided to exercise his 5th-year option.
Yeah, which I don't know what the number on it would be.
I don't know it either. But I'm saying you have him for 3 more years. 2 years without that. You only have Justin Fields for 1 year. So it's interesting. The Eagles have a starting quarterback. And when everyone says, well, nobody else out there wanted to trade for Justin Fields, well, the asking price is really what it was all about. But not only that, the idea of picking up his 5th-year option for $25 million, I'm pretty sure scared a lot of people off. Because really, if you're going to trade for Justin Fields, don't you have to almost commit to him for more than a year?
Well, I mean, I guess the Steelers are viewing it as we'll see. Because the Steelers traded for him. And,
right.
I bet he's like, okay, well, if Russ is bad, I can get in there and show what I want to do.
Sure.
And maybe he can be the quarterback of the future for the Steelers.
Right. Well, listen, Minnesota was out of the question. Chicago's not trading Justin Fields to Minnesota.
No.
Just to have it backfire on them. And I look at the Eagles and I say, listen, Jalen Hurts is your starter this year. So Justin Fields more than likely wouldn't play this year.
In a perfect world, no.
Yeah, because Jalen Hurts doesn't miss a lot of games. Even if he missed 1 game. Unless it's the actual Super Bowl, like what does Justin Fields playing 1 game actually do?
He's not going to have the Matt Flynn game?
Yeah, I don't really believe that. It's certainly not going to be a game to the point where now you don't want Jalen as your quarterback and you're willing to pick up a $25 million option on Justin Fields or give him a new contract overall, right? So I think the Eagles just decided, you know what? It's not worth it. We'll move on. Kenny Pickett is a better option, and they got him for 2 years. Not a real threat to Jalen, but also it's an insurance policy. We know how he liked him. He was out there to scout him, so that's no secret. They traded for him. Maybe they can wind up turning him into something either as a player or as a trade pick value standpoint. Trading him for something.
Sure. And
maybe
it's
that's
better
what they
than
can do.
2 7ths.
Yeah, and it's better as far as they're concerned. Now, here's what I'll say. It doesn't make me feel good as far as if something were to happen to Jalen, could somebody step in there and keep this train moving?
And I don't think Kenny Pickett can.
No, I don't either. I'd be very surprised.
And my biggest fear is that they made this trade for Kenny Pickett because they didn't want a threat to Jalen. They didn't want Justin Fields to be viewed as a threat to Jalen. And I hope,
which he would have been.
Which he probably would have been.
Yes.
Yes, of course. As long as Jalen didn't hold up his end of the bargain, which is play well. Obviously, you can't control a guy getting hurt. We understand that. But what I hope is not the case here is that they chose the lesser player, which I think is Kenny Pickett, because they didn't want the perceived idea of a quarterback controversy. And if that's the case, then it does weaken them if Jalen Hurts does go down. And I know it's only a year, but also what if Kenny Pickett's not any good anyway? So who cares if you have him for 2 years or even that third year after that? If you can't play, you can't play.
But what if he can play?
Well, if he can play, great. But if I was betting on one of the two, I would bet on Justin Fields.
Okay. I think I would too. I think I like Justin Fields' upside a little more than Kenny Pickett's. But if I'm being honest, there's not, from a on-the-field result standpoint, much different than Justin Fields having the ability to run.
Sure.
Right?
Stronger arm.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't matter if you can't complete the passes. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it just doesn't matter. So his completion percentage is pretty much the same.
Low.
As Kenny Pickett's. Pretty low. I don't look at the win-loss record because I think Kenny Pickett was with Mike Tomlin. Defense, running game, don't screw it up. That's different than being in Chicago, run around, find a way to help us win a game.
Yeah,
so I don't even go by win and loss record.
Kind of like Brett Brown's record as the Sixers.
Yeah. Like Kenny Pickett was in a better situation than Justin Fields in Chicago, and where he was asked to do more. Kenny Pickett was asked to do a little bit less. Not saying that he was a game manager as a first-round draft pick, just had a better coaching around him, which I think he's going to have here as well. I'm just looking at this with Kenny Pickett, and here's the way I look at it, Jack.
Okay.
And I don't know if the Eagles see it this way or not, but just based off of your answer and your assumption and what you think, the reason why they did this, I'm okay with that because you know what? That's exercising good common sense.
But it's also could be making up for a Carson thing. And I hope it's
good.
But it's a little too overcorrecty for me. It's always this organization is so good at overcorrecting.
Yeah.
And I don't think Jalen is good enough not to. You can't build the best team possible because it might affect his psyche. And that's what I think Justin Fields was.
Yeah, but I think it was unnecessary noise. That's the whole thing. I like Justin Fields, but he's no sure thing. So having him here and everybody being intrigued with what he can do when Jalen doesn't play well and calling for him every other week based on his potential, I don't even know if that potential could be reached here. And there's no way you can tell me it wouldn't make him uncomfortable, Jalen uncomfortable, more importantly, guys in that locker room a little uncomfortable. And it's unnecessary. They're trying to win the Super Bowl. So I'm not saying this was the Eagles' reasoning behind it, but if it was, I don't think that's a bad thing. Yeah, you should learn from past mistakes, whether it was intentional or unintentional. When you see something didn't work out a certain way based on the same sort of scenario, then you don't go back and repeat that. Because then you got no one to blame but yourself. We can excuse you for the first time and blame Wentz. Wentz couldn't take it. Well, now you know. Starting quarterbacks are sensitive.
They are sensitive.
So now it's on you if you create this atmosphere, this culture again. I'm not blaming Jalen. I'm not calling Jalen soft or any of those things. What I'm saying is the Eagles don't know how to foster a good quarterback and make sure they put the best things around him to get the best out of him. That's what I would be saying if that scenario played its way out the same way it did in 2020. And I'm glad the Eagles didn't do that. Justin Fields, I like him. I hope he succeeds in Pittsburgh. I think he will get a chance to play at some point this year. But if not, Pittsburgh, I believe, has a bigger picture in mind, and they're looking towards the future as well. So he's going to be okay there. I think he landed in a better spot in Pittsburgh.
215-592-9494 is how you get in. Did the Eagles make a mistake trading for Pickett over Fields? I mean, when you break down just the actual trade, they got Pickett. They gave up more for Pickett. I mean, it's a 6th-round pick for Fields that could turn into a 4th.
Yeah, they gave up more for Pickett because you got him longer.
Yeah,
and you got him at a cheaper price.
That's good.
Yeah,
as long as he can play.
No, he's not going to have to play.
Well, he might have to play.
I hope not.
Well, I know, but in a perfect world,
you hope that he does play.
Well, listen,
or somebody plays. See, that's how you and I are on two different sides of this thing because you got a little bit of doubt in you, and you've been upfront about it, so
sure.
That's there. Whereas I'm more or less saying I don't have that doubt, and I would rather just continue to build with Jalen and make sure that we have a singular focus. And that's on getting this kid back to playing at an MVP level. You got tremendous talent around him. You got a new coaching staff around him. You know,
it's basically you're pushing all your chips in on Jalen, and if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. And that's something you have to deal with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, we got Kenny Pickett here.
I know we have Kenny Pickett here.
Here's what I'm going to say about this with him.
Okay.
He's going to get coached up by Kellen Moore. Hopefully he doesn't have to play this year. I don't know what he's going to look like in a year as a quarterback. I mean, he got drafted in a weak quarterback class, so I'm not going to sit here and act like he's something great that we're missing out on.
Yeah, he's a first-round pick by default.
But the fact of the matter is, if you tell me his quarterback comp is David Carr coming out, or is it Derek Carr? Derek Carr, yeah, not David Carr. He stinks. Derek Carr, the younger brother. If that's his comp, that's not bad for a backup quarterback.
No, if he's that good.
Yeah, that's not bad for a backup quarterback. And with this amount of talent around him, he should be able to do some good things.
Just go play point guard.
That's all he got to do, man. I messed around. Well, Jalen has earned the right to do the whole Magic Johnson comparison. Every other quarterback that gets behind there and has to pass the ball around, you're going to either be Rondo or Chris Paul.
Right.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah, you don't need hero
Everybody
ball.
doesn't get Magic.
Yeah, you don't need hero ball. You don't need hero ball. 215-592-9494. Where do you come down on this? Did the Eagles make a mistake trading for Pickett's over Field? I think they did.